Priscilla Faia, you play Izzy on You, Me, Her, the new comedy series on DirecTV's Audience Network, alongside Greg Poller and Rachel Blanchard. Rather than me trying to explain what the show is about, why don't I just hand it over to you and you tell us how you can encapsulate what this show is about.
Sure. I mean, later maybe you can tell me what you think, because that would be awesome.
I will. Yeah. Off air, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Okay, so You, Me, Her is a show. Essentially, how it's being pitched out there is it's a polyromantic comedy. So it's a romantic comedy, but with 3 people. So we follow Jack and Emma Trikarsky, played by Greg and Rachel, and they've kind of hit I'd say a hiccup in their marriage, where they've just kind of gotten into a little bit of a rut. So at the terrible advice of Greg's brothers, who Gabe is his name in the show, he says, maybe you should just hire an escort and just get your flow back and see if that sparks something in your marriage. So he hires me. I play Izzy Silva, and I'm a psychology grad student who moonlights as an escort for money. She just hangs out with men for money, and they hit it off. It goes very well. He feels terrible, goes home, tells his wife. She gets upset, obviously, and then behind his back hires me and falls for me as well. And then the story begins.
And so, it goes on from there.
Yeah, it goes on from there. It's one of those things where I think a lot of people have an expectation of what the show is going to be. You see this guy who's married, who's now possibly maybe having a threesome with these 2 women, and it's so different than that. It's totally told from a unique perspective, and so it's very exciting for me. I think that people are going to be very, very surprised by it.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, surprised. Because when I was given the rundown of the concept, or when I saw the first few episodes, I thought, oh, beauty, it's going to be a show about a guy who has sex with a few women, and it's going to be about a threesome. Ooh, this sounds really raunchy. It's not really that at all. It's actually quite delightful. It's really a rom-com. It's a spin on the rom-com, so to speak. And, you guys kind of play real people, but the first question I have for you is, how was this concept sold to you, though? Were you concerned at first, thinking, oh, this is not really the kind of thing I want to go down, that kind of road?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the way that I got involved in this project was much different than Greg and Rachel. Greg and Rachel got sent the scripts. I auditioned, so I was given 16 pages of the pilot, which is crazy. I know, as an actor, people are like, what, 16 pages? But it didn't really faze me. And I honestly, my first reaction was yes, because I think that we desire stories that are told from a totally unique perspective. We kind of have the map of how stories go. And I just love the idea of these 3 very real people in a situation that I think a lot of people get in. We're just not talking about it yet. It's kind of still a taboo situation that people are maybe uncomfortable to talk about. And I just love that. I really loved the possibility of being a part of something that would stir up some conversation. Because You're right. It's not 3 people who, John Scott Shepherd, who created, he's our executive producer and he show runs. He always talks about the fact that he really wanted to bring this down to real life, your average Joe, not these people who have tons of money and can hide these type of things. It's really just that suburban couple who are falling for this girl and she's falling for them.
Yeah, and that is the concept behind the show, but it's really about these people that are interacting. It's about relationships, and it's about how you interact with other people. It's about falling in love. It's about marriage, which is a really that's an area that is not necessarily explored as much as we think it is. Just about married people and how they do fall into ruts and how they do have to spice things up, so to speak. So given that, you guys are on the Audience Network, which allows you some leeway. You can swear, you can be a bit raunchier than your colleagues on basic cable and broadcast networks. do you find that liberating being on that format where you can kind of go a bit further?
Absolutely. You know, there's nothing wrong with network television. I was on a network show for 3 years and I loved it. It was an amazing experience, but it's a totally different situation when you're making, because essentially I really feel like we made an independent film, like just a very long independent film. There was so much room for us. DirecTV was an incredible network for us. They really gave us room to explore. So we always did what was written, but they would also, you know, keep the cameras running and give us opportunities to find things. And of course, you know, I've got a potty mouth, so it was very liberating for me specifically to be able to emphasize some of my points with, you know, my favorite swear words or what have you. And it's not about the swearing. It's just sometimes we're in those situations where it does happen, and it felt really good to be able to express myself that way.
Yeah, and I think it's important to talk like a real person. It's so hard to take shows seriously when they're saying shoot and things like that. So it added that extra. Yeah. I just don't want to really be. I don't want to hang around people that say shoot. It's just not something that I really want to be part of. So yeah. It's cool that you guys can just play real people and explore that particular relationship. So that brings me to this. You obviously now have to, you know, you played scenes with both Rachel and Greg, and that's a whole other story, because you're being intimate now with both a man and a woman. Is that something that you were prepared for? Was it something that you were concerned about?
No. Look, like you said, the show is not about sex. It's not about a man who's having a threesome with two women. This is about connection. It's about relationship. And I felt very connected to my co-stars for many reasons. I mean, they're amazing actors, but our director, Nisha Ganatra, who's incredible, she did Transparent, Mr. Robot. She's wonderful. Yeah. She was very adamant that we would have rehearsal time. So for 3 days before we started shooting, we got to have old school theater rehearsal where we sat with each other and found, you know, physically our connection. We didn't do any script work. We didn't even look at the script. We just really sat in our connection with one another. And it was imperative, I think, to our shooting, because our shooting schedule was crazy. We shot 10 episodes in 37 days, 7 weeks. So there was no room to figure out our relationship on set. We had to have that time, and I think it really translates to the screen. Absolutely. And so to answer your question, because sometimes I do that, I don't actually no, I didn't worry. It was very easy for me to connect with both of them, and so I just really trusted the moment, and I trusted the leadership of Nisha and where we're going, and just was present with whatever the truth of that particular scene was.
I think it really shows, actually. I didn't know about the rehearsal aspect of it. Actually, it really does show between the three of you in particular. Would you say that was the most rewarding aspect of the show, or can you pinpoint something else that you thought was the most rewarding part of being on You, Me, Her?
I mean, that's tough. I think creatively that was a really exciting time for me. I've never done that. I've never had that experience on a show before. So I really embraced that. I'd say, honestly, the whole production, the crew, it's such an intimate show that there was no room for it not to be intimate with everybody. This goes from our camera guys, you know, that we were handheld for most of the time. Everything was just very close quarters. And I just think that that's really rewarding. I think it's rare to be that close with everyone involved. So I know it sounds lame, but the whole thing is great.
Well, conversely, can you think of something that you thought was the most challenging aspect of being on the show? What did you find the hardest to do or to grapple with?
Well, I mean, 10 episodes in 7 weeks is mental.
That's
also,
crazy.
Also, we cross-boarded. So, and if you're not familiar with that, it's essentially whatever location we were shooting at, we shot every scene that was in that location for all 10 episodes, because all 10 episodes were written, they were what we were shooting. So
Yeah.
some weeks we'd be shooting from episode 2 to 8 to 7 to 6. So that was really challenging. And we had an amazing script supervisor, and obviously Nisha and John, they kept us, we knew where we were, but it was just challenging as an actor to just trust the process that even though we're going from episode 2 to 6, that it's going to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to like be in the moment, and it's really hard to be like, okay, so where am I going to be? You know, it's just, you just have to trust the process.
Yeah. And I always wonder when I speak to actors about that particular way of shooting a series or a film or whatever, I just can't believe that you guys can pull it off. It just would seem so difficult for someone like me who isn't an actor. So yeah, that's again another way of saying that this show is very much like an independent film. Did you find that as well? I mean, you've been working for a very long time. You've been working since you're a child. So would you say this is...
I mean, I took a very, you know, I did a commercial, I think, when I was a kid, and then I stopped until I was in my, you know, I think early 20s. So professionally, I've been working, you know, I'd say solid 7 years, I guess.
So you're still a newbie then. You're just like, you just started. Yeah. And so would you say that it's compared to your work on Rookie Blue, that's probably what we're most familiar with in terms of your work. Would you say that it is true that the adage that comedy is actually harder than drama? Is that something that you have now discovered after doing You, Me, Her?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think what makes this show specifically exciting to me is that the comedy comes from the drama. So we're not playing into the comedy. We're not trying to get the ba-dum-bump jokes, which I have no issue with. But to me, I enjoy English humor because it's very dry, and they're not trying to be funny. And I feel like we tap into that in this show. So I don't know. I honestly, I don't know which is harder. It depends. It depends. I think what you're more comfortable with, what kind of show you're doing. I think that sitcom comedy is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
The rehearsal process, I've never done it, but I know lots of people who have done it, and it sounds really difficult. I mean, obviously I would be up to trying anything, but I really enjoyed this because it was a very big mixture between the two, a dramedy, I'd say.
Yeah, but I asked that because I found the show to be actually really funny, and I wasn't necessarily expecting it to be. I thought it was going to be a sweet rom-com type, you know, genre that, you know, would make me smirk a bit, but it was funny. Like, it really is funny, and that's testament to not only you guys, the actors who have the timing to get those jokes or to get those funny circumstances across, but it was the writing, I think, that really kind of got me. And yeah, so funny is good. Funny is not easy.
Yeah, I think we're moving into an era where a lot of the shows like that are, I mean, Togetherness, which is so upsetting, it got canceled. Catastrophe, all these shows that are really uncomfortably honest, but that's why it's so funny. Yeah. Because everyone that watches it goes, oh God, I know exactly what that's like. It's relatable. And I really appreciate comedy like that.
Absolutely. To just get really serious for a sec, and maybe I'm drawing a really long bow, but given what's going on in the States, especially in the South, and how non-traditional values, let's put it that way, are kind of in the media, whether that be about sexual orientation or other types of relationships, has it occurred to you and perhaps your colleagues that what you guys are portraying is important? It's important to kind of put this out there as an alternative lifestyle that's not something to be sniggered at or to be kind of derided. I mean, what do you think about that side of it?
Absolutely. I think that's probably the best part about getting to talk about this show. Everyone has the right to express themselves regardless of what everyone else is telling them. And I think this show it's a platform for people to be able to have conversations. You know, what if the life that you want to live is nothing like you thought it was going to be? And would you risk it all to live it? You know, and I think that's the big message of our show. One of the coolest things about doing press for the show was the conversations that I got to have with all the different communities. We had a whole bunch of people from the polyamory community come to our New York premiere, and I got to talk with them after, and they were talking about how important it is to have shows and things that are out there that represent them. And again, what you've seen of the show so far, we're not exactly in a box. We're not anything yet because we're still trying to figure it out as people. But I think that's what makes it relatable, is that sometimes we find ourselves in places in our lives where we're really trying to figure out what's going to work for us. So
yeah. You know, like, life is really kind of complicated, and it's nice when TV series examples being like Transparent or Girls, shows like that kind of show that things aren't really as simple as perhaps many other kind of series and films portray. Yeah. And so, yeah.
I think that life has never been simple. Life has always been complicated. Everything has been so hush-hush. And I think I love that we're coming to a place where we're actually talking about this stuff, that we're putting television shows on TV, on HBO, on all these great platforms that go, you're not alone. Yeah. You know, we're all struggling with trying to find purpose and you know, love and all the things that make us human beings. And it's a really exciting time for television. I think there's some great stuff coming out of everything: Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. I mean, it's crazy. Right.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's kind of like what the independent film industry was maybe in the 90s. It's where it's really all happening now on television, which is really exciting.
Very exciting.
So let's get slightly more shallow before I let you go. And I usually ask this question because, you know, we're Gold Derby. So we talk about awards. This is what we do. This is what we live for. And you've been nominated for a Canadian TV Screen Award prior to years ago for Rookie Blue. And so you know what it's like to be nominated for something and to be up for it. Now, DirecTV, knowing them, they are really, really great at getting their product out there for the Academy to recognize. And if You, Me, Her becomes something that the Academy want to honor, and you guys are up for awards, okay, this is a very long question, but what I'm trying to get at is, God, I'm trying to like get you to this point.
No, it's okay. I'm with you. I followed.
You're following me. What do awards mean to actors and to people who work in television and film? Are they just frivolous nonsense, or do they mean something?
It's a very good question. I can't speak for all actors because I think I get into a lot of trouble.
Speak for every actor in the world.
Yeah, every actor on the planet. That's a really difficult question. I think that being honored by any type of community, whether it's the awards, whether it's, you know, the Hollywood Foreign Press, whether it's a Canadian Screen Award, I think it's exciting for the show, for the network, for people to. It's a great way for other people to see your show, right? Because the media, that's what they do, right? The media puts it out there and it's like, hey, the show's getting nominated. And I think that as artists, it's really exciting to have more people be a part of this story, whatever story it is that you're trying to tell. So I think in that aspect, it is important. It's part of what we do. And in order for people to see it, the marketing has to happen, all the stuff has to happen, word of mouth, all the things. So I think that it's part of the machine, the industry. I think it's, you know, so in those terms, it is important.
Yeah, I think so too. Priscilla Faia, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck for the show, for the upcoming Emmy season. We wish you guys all the best.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.